All right, Unit 5, Lecture 1, probably Lecture 1A. We'll see how this goes. We're going to start the Civil War. This is, again, one of these times I feel I must say this is history according to the Virginia SOLs, okay? Not necessarily how we would like to see it, or we don't necessarily get the time we would like to spend on this topic. But anyhow, according to the SOLs. So in 1860, Abraham Lincoln's going to win the presidential election. Lincoln's from Illinois. He's going to run as a Republican. He's the Republican candidate for president. Remember, the Republican Party had formed to resist the spread of slavery into the territories. The Democratic Party was split over the issue of slavery at this time. We're going to have Northern Democrats who nominate Stephen Douglas. And remember, Stephen Douglas is a senator from Illinois who Lincoln had debated in the '58 election, senatorial election. And those debates had made Lincoln rather famous. They had given him a national reputation. Okay, so Douglas will run for Illinois. The Southern Democrats will pick Breckinridge to be their candidate. And there's a fourth political party, the Constitutional Unionists, who will nominate John Bell from Tennessee. So what we'll see, and we'll see this quite often in our history, when one party splits over an issue, and in this case it's over slavery, it usually allows another party to win, allows the other party to win. So Lincoln will win fairly easily the presidential election of 1860. That's an important one to remember, right? 1860, I want you to remember that. And he's going to win it without winning one southern state, right? Because they're going to see he's resistant to slavery. All right. Now, when Lincoln wins, the South or the southern states are going to look at this and say, well, we don't have the House of Representatives. We no longer control the Senate, and now we don't have the presidency. So we don't have a say in government anymore. And we're not going to be able to protect our rights, our right to property, our right to slavery. So they're fearing that Lincoln and the government will now try to abolish or at least restrict slavery much more. So since they feel they have no place in government, in the late 1860, beginning 1861, led by South Carolina, the southern states are going to start to secede. So of South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas all vote to secede, S-E-C-E-D-E, or withdraw from the Union. In 1861, they're going to establish the Confederate States of America, a new nation. And they'll choose as president of these Confederate States of America Jefferson Davis, who was serving as one of Mississippi's 2 U.S. senators at the time. So in 1861 then, Lincoln's going to refuse to evacuate federal troops from Fort Sumter in South Carolina. It's a fort in the harbor at Charleston, South Carolina. Confederate forces are then going to fire on Fort Sumter, and the Civil War will begin. All right, and it's going to last from 1861 to 1865. Now I know I told you this is technically the first shots of the Civil War. All right, it starts with Fort Sumter, though we could put it back to Bleeding Kansas, like we discussed earlier. All right, now a Civil War, by definition, is a war between people of the same country. All right, so then following South Carolina's attack on Fort Sumter, Lincoln will call for troops. He asked the states, the northern states, to provide for 75,000 troops to put down the rebellion in the South. The northern states immediately respond to Lincoln's call for troops, and then the slave states of Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas refuse to take up arms against the other slave states and instead vote to secede and join the Confederacy. All right, so now we're going to look at quickly, or actually I'll stop here and pick up with Lecture 1B, the causes of the Civil War according to Virginia SOLs.